Hello viewers, hope I find you all doing well in these difficult times and troubling and concerning times. But alas, it seems as though possibly even greater turns of events are not far away from us. I sounded a little bit like Professor Snape then, didn't I, the way I drew those words out? It wasn't intentional, I can assure you. But in any case, I just wanted to share with you the fact that when I woke up this morning, which is actually during the daytime because I'm a night shift worker, during the daytime when I woke up for my morning, I had one single thought on my mind. In fact, actually, it kind of this thought was so loud in my consciousness, or echoing through my subconsciousness, that it kind of woke me. And I was lying there, virtually awake, and still had this thought echoing through my head. The battle of Gog and Magog is about to start. Gog and Magog is about to start. And I thought, okay, I've heard something about this. And I believe it's a biblical prophecy in relation to the end times. So once I'd fully woken up, I decided I'd go online and look at some Bible references and have a look at some other stuff written about it, and YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to dive into this and see what this battle of Gog and Magog is about and how's it relevant. So I did some research, watched some videos, looked at the Bible references, and thought, okay, this is not good, because basically, in a nutshell for you, greater scholars than I have looked at the Bible passages in relation to Gog and Magog and the battle of Gog and Magog. And basically, the interpretation that modern scholars are getting is that the leader of Russia is the person of Gog, and Magog is the nation of Russia. So, and basically, what they're going to do, the head of Russia and the nation of Russia, is they are going to invade the nation of Israel. And the reason they'll do it is for plunder, so economic gain. And this kind of battle is going to really be, if you look at the end times timeline, the battle of Gog and Magog is kind of the beginning of the tribulation period, the 7-year tribulation period, and that's like a clock ticking down, a time bomb, the 7-year tribulation. So if ever there was an event in history which is like a truck approaching us on the road with its headlights becoming visible, this battle would be it. We know that we never know. We cannot tell when Jesus will return and when the end will be, because that's what the scripture tells us. No one knows, not even the Son, only the Father. So, regardless of how many prophets or false prophets out there are trying to say they can predict when it's going to happen, they can't. It even tells you that in the Bible. It warns you, that there's going to be false prophets coming, and there's going to be lots of false signs and wonders to try and distract us away, from the truth. So, but this to me, is going to be a kind of, okay, if the end time is approaching as like a train or a truck coming down a track or heading towards us, when it's way in the distance, out of sight, we can't see, we've got no idea It could be, it's most likely going to be way in the future, because we can't even see this turn of events approaching. But when it gets to the point where, boom, it's visibly in our field of vision, we can see this truck or this train approaching us. We can see the headlights of it in the distance. It's on the radar. It's literally visible now. That's kind of, to me, what the Battle of Gog and Magog is in end times chronology. It's going to be the headlights of a truck or train approaching, the end approaching, visibly. So, because you've got that ticking time bomb of 7 years of tribulation period, So, yeah, it's fascinating from one point of view as a Christian. It's be scary for people who are non-Christians, who haven't yet accepted Christ, or confusing or irrelevant to people who don't understand it, don't know, think it's just the ramblings, of madmen or something like that. So in any case, I'd be, watching the news, keeping up to date with what's happening, not only between Russia and the Ukraine, but how things are playing out in the Middle East as well. Iran, Syria, Israel, and how all these things are, going to be tied in to what Russia is doing in the world at the moment. We know they've got connections with countries like Syria. They're sending troops from Syria into the Ukraine at the moment. So it's been reported in the news. Anyhow, I don't know. It's just second-hand information from the news. But they're saying that the Russians are bringing Syrian troops in as mercenaries to go into Ukraine and fight there in Ukraine. So there's obviously a strong connection between the Syrian people and the Russians. It's like they're returning a favour, apparently, for favours that have been done to them by Russia. So, and the former president of Israel was talking recently about Iran, and the potential of them becoming a nuclear power and stuff like that, having nuclear weapons and stuff, and how crazy and scary that would be in the modern world. But I mean, this looming battle, between Russia and Israel does make sense in the term in terms of what's going on at the moment, because I mean, Russia is being heavily sanctioned by the West, so its economic resources undoubtedly have been put under a lot of strain. Could be drying up to some extent, So they've reached out to China and obviously other countries like India, for support and for ways to try and alleviate the pressure of the Western sanctions. But obviously it is having, a severe effect upon their economy and their nation. So, and obviously the cost of war is very expensive as well. There's a huge economic cost in that, aside from the loss of life, and things like that. So, yeah, their economy is going to be struggling. So, typically what happens in a situation like that, where, somebody who's a war leader, or dare I use the term warmonger, like an Adolf Hitler or someone like that, his solution to Germany's economic crisis, prior to the Second World War, was to go to war, to plunder other nations, like to invade countries like Poland and stuff like that. So take over their economy and their resources and stuff, which makes you a rich country again, So that is an answer. It is a solution. The economic plundering of other countries solves a country's economic woes. It's kind of a last ditched effort when trade and things like that have become impossible. Then the final resort becomes going to war to plunder other nations. So it makes perfect sense, for a strong leader or a dictator, to do that. That would be a logical step, of an expansionist mentality, and one that's been cornered. And if you read people like Sun Tzu, who was a famous Chinese general, and wrote this book called The Art of War, which has been, widely praised and accepted as a genius level kind of book of strategy, on warfare, and it's relevant today as it was when it was written. And he says things like, if you corner an army or you put it on death's ground, it becomes ferocious and invincible. I've read of or heard of military leaders using that tactically to their advantage. Like as soon as you dump soldiers on a beachhead and then pull the boats away, and there's an opposing army in front of them, their backs to the wall, so they go crazy and fight tooth and nail to get out of their situation. So it's a very powerful and motivating thing, being on deathly ground. So yeah, like a cornered animal, basically. It's that kind of concept. So if you do that to a nation like Russia, if you corner them like an animal, put them at death's door, economically, they're going to become ferocious, if not already. And that, to me, would be a very strong motivator for them to come out fighting and just go at countries like Israel for economic gain. So it makes perfect sense, what's happening now, and how it fits in with this biblical prophecy of the Battle of Gog and Magog. To my mind, it makes perfect sense. So we'll just watch and wait and see, But if it does happen, if Russia does invade Israel, it would fulfill the prophecy of the Battle of Gog and Magog, which means a major prophetic event in the Bible has been fulfilled in the end times timeline, which then sets into motion the 7-year tribulation, and the clock at that point is most certainly ticking like a bomb. So start thinking seriously about your faith. If you haven't considered Christ, then please do. Start reading the Bible. Start considering that this life is not the be all and end all. It's not everything it's cracked up to be. Unfortunately, it's a principality of the devil. So it's a harsh reality. It's almost like I was just thinking about this recently. The Catholic notion of purgatory. It's a midway point between heaven and hell. Yeah, it's almost like to me, it's like the devil runs it like a kind of version of hell for the Christian believers. We're treated to some extent like we're in low-level hell type of prison. Something like that. That's what it feels like from the Christian point of view. He hasn't got his claws into us fully, but he's doing his best to make it like hell on earth for Christians. Yeah, and if it's any taste of what it is in hell, then I don't want any part of it. Keep right out of that place, get out of there, any way you can, and Jesus is the answer. So the basic gospel message, confess with your mouth, believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, and you will be saved. You will have a place in eternity. Your name will be written in the book of life. And heaven is a place that no man has imagined. It's going to be better than this life at an infinite level, in an incomprehensible level. Will it be better than this? And it's eternal. So everything else in this world and in this life pales into insignificance, in terms of how that compares against an eternity in heaven. This kind of blink or twinkling of an eye existence we're in now, which so many people are so heavily invested in, seems like a nothing. We're but a mist, a breath, here for a moment and then gone. This is kind of the descriptions that are given of this life here and now. But like I said, so many people are so tightly holding on to it. You've just got to let it go. Got to let it go. Get over it. Don't let yourself become, to use a corny sort of movie type analogy, like an Anakin Skywalker who turns into a Darth Vader. You let it get to you. You let the attacks of the devil get to you. Sure, he attacks us and he runs us down. He hurts us emotionally, psychologically, wounds us and scars us and beats us up and takes things away from us that we love, or prevents us from getting things that we love, slows us down in our progress, frustrates us, all those kind of things, exactly like Anakin Skywalker's life. Well, that's how he felt. He was being frustrated and slowed down and struggling with his romantic relationships and things like that. Afraid of certain moves or steps to take, but it twisted his gut, in a way, and it just went from bad to worse. Being seduced by evil thoughts and evil solutions, this is the work of the devil. That's how he works on people. Beats you up and seduces you at the same time, until you become an instrument, a puppet of evil. With the can't breathe kind of masks on and that, and getting around all in black and stuff, and that's a hideous, thing to think that you're going to become like that, because you just didn't have the strength, the intestinal fortitude to struggle under persecution. It's not that bad. Seriously, it's not. You can get over it incrementally. You grow each day. Each day you resist the devil. Each day, you feed on the word of God. You feed on his body and his blood through the sacraments. You just keep persisting. You keep a positive mindset, the hope and the glory of heaven that awaits us. You keep focusing, looking above and not down below. We're not even at this world around us. You're just kind of an observer of it, living quietly, living humbly in the background, not sort of wanting to be some sort of overlord or superstar or whatever, because I know what these people are, I know what the overlords and the superstars really are. They're vampires, basically. They will admit it if they're honest, but they're not. It's sucking the life out of other people, with their millions and billions, of dollars, which nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves that amount of money and riches to themselves. I mean, for the paltry things that they do, the trivial stuff that they give back, you know, there's no way that people are worth that. It's like being a vampire, sucking the life out of other people, you know. And the people that get millions and billions of dollars, they give a fraction of it back and trumpet this loudly, which is totally against what it says in the Bible. You know, if you give generously, sure, and you don't trumpet it either. You say nothing about it. You keep it to yourself. It's between you and God, what you're giving. You know. So yeah, it's really boring at the end of the day. You know what the world offers. The world sort of holds out to be something great, but what it delivers in the end is rubbish. You know, it's all just temptation. It's all addictive. You know, everything's addictive. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, money, food, sex, alcohol, drugs. You know, all these things are addictive. The more you get, the more you want, the more you need, and it just strings you along. You know, until you feel hollow and empty inside. You know, when you realise that it's rubbish. Like the writer of Ecclesiastes. Vanity of vanities. Everything's just driving after the wind. You know, it all comes to nothing in the end. It just leaves you feeling hollow and empty. That's what the world does. But Jesus, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of that. You know, he is the life. He is the fountain, the spring that from which we drink, we will never thirst again. So, you know, there's the answer. He has the answer, you know, which nobody else does, and the world does not have that answer. You know, it can sustain you and amuse you and gratify your desires temporarily, very temporarily. And that time is running out at the moment. If you're planning way into the future, think again. There very likely won't be a way into the future. So, with that thought, God bless. And amen, and see you again.